Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if one of you has a sun in Taurus and the other has a sun in Sagittarius. Taurus and Sagittarius form an awkward angle, which is 150 degrees apart and called an inconjunction. I actually have this between my sun in Sagittarius and Taurus rising. And this is because fire and earth are very different in terms of how they express themselves, how they appreciate life. The elements that are very disparate can lend themselves to, kind of like weird interactions. And if you have it within your own chart, then the self-expression will be quite, how would I put it? I was going to say contradictory, but it just doesn't fit. It's like if you're wearing a polka dotted shirt and striped pants. But the funny thing about it is some people wear that combination. And you can make things work that are really, really seemingly different. Remember that we're not talking about a square when we're talking about an inconjunction, where there's a clash, but there's also a point of attraction. This is about something that just seems like they're so different that they have no common ground. I have found, however, that these signs that form in conjunctions, that there are some things that they may actually have in common. And I think it's always a mistake to write off something completely. I happen to know a couple where one person was a Taurus and one was a Sagittarian. And so stranger things have definitely happened. It's important to remember that both of these sun signs are next to earth signs. Well, I should say both of them are next to signs that are the element of the other sign. So Sag is right next to Capricorn, and that's an earth sign. So that would be friendly to the Taurus. And Taurus is next to Aries, so that's friendly to Sag. So it's very possible that they're going to have inner planets that are compatible. And truth be told, there are times when we are attracted to somebody and we may not even know why, but we still are drawn to that person. And you could say it's some kind of a soul contract or karmic connection, whatever you want to call it, however you want to slice it, it does happen. And this couple that I'm speaking of, I have not been in contact with these people for many years. I didn't really know the wife, but they had at least one child as well. So they were a well-established couple. And so I know that these things can actually happen. I'm going to talk about what are the things that might bring the two of you together and how you may have come together and what the challenges might be with this type of union. First of all, Taurus and Sagittarius are both signs that I think like to have fun. Taurus is the first earth sign. And Taurus people, I think it's because the ruler is Venus that you Taurus people tend to be very fun-loving and easygoing. And that's another thing too, disposition, that I think both these signs have in common is an easygoing disposition. This can really make any differences lessen. If you are somebody who's uptight and you have differences with somebody, it's just like gasoline on fire. But both of these signs are ruled by benefic planets. Venus in Taurus's situation and Sag in theirs. I mean, not Sag, and Jupiter and Sagittarius. And in Vedic astrology, these are considered these, planets that are that give blessings to people and are very positive influences. In a similar vein, I don't think that either of these signs is going to be stingy with money. Taurus is an earth sign, and rules the second house connected to finances. So Taurus has an innate understanding of money and may be very interested in the subject of money, may be materialistic, may be good at numbers and just knowing how it all comes together. But Taurus, of all the earth signs, is I would say the most free spending. And this is because of that rulership of Venus. Venus is all about pleasure. You think about the Empress card in the major arcana and in the tarot, and this is connected to Venus, the Empress. And so that's why, the Earth Mother archetype is mentioned sometimes. And it's about abundance. Taurus is not a sign to be about deprivation. Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, can be overly indulgent, but it's the great benefic. So the point being that these two signs believe that life should be about enjoyment and pleasure. And a lot of times you will get people who are involved in relationships where their partner is quite tight-fisted when it comes to money, even if the other party is very either even-handed or likes to buy things with the money that they earn. They say that the number one conflict in relationships revolves around money. And, maybe that's true, maybe that's overblown, I don't know. But it certainly is one of the bones of contention. We know that because money is something that can cause a lot of stress, and especially when people have attached all this importance to it because of their own issues. And I'm talking about people who are overly concerned about it. Maybe they are kind of miserly. They're fear-based about money. They can look at that other person who is spending the money as threatening their very existence. And it is true that some people are out of control and irresponsible when it comes to money as well. It's not that that's not true in some cases. So that, that one point can be good because it can keep you on the same page and you can actually have fun in the relationship. However, that is one of the things that can lead to excessive spending and therefore money problems within that relationship. So you could be reinforcing each other's weakness by doing so, by having this side to yourselves. But anyway, getting back to some of the other good things, there is creativity with both these signs. Fire signs like Sag are naturally creative. And of course, again, with Taurus, there is that Venus connection. So it is possible that you meet in an environment where maybe it's like an open mic night. I always say that because the couple that I was referring to earlier, that's where I met the man. And he was a regular, a singer. And so that's the kind of thing that Taurus tends to enjoy music. I think of all the arts, Taurus, because Taurus rules the throat. And so singing can be a big thing, but even just music itself. I think in professional music there are a lot of Taurus musicians. As a matter of fact, as I record this, a man that was in the earlier days of rock and roll just passed away, and he was a Taurus named Bobby Rydell. And I don't know if I'm correct about this, but I just notice a lot of Taurus, people in music. I also think that Taurus people may be crafty, especially if they have inner planets in Gemini, which can rule fine motor skills. So being able to make jewelry, like if you have Mars in Gemini or something along those lines, you might just be very interested in arts and crafts and selling them. Sag, performer in all different kinds of ways. I've just been doing younger stars that I was noticing these young female stars. A lot of them are Sagittarians. Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift, Nicki Minaj. And so that just is something that both of these signs can have in common. So let's talk about some of the things that might be a little bit tricky. Sag is an intellectual and also philosophical. And it's not to say that somebody who's a Taurus might not have that same kind of interest in learning and what have you, because Taurus is right next to Gemini and can have some of those same things. But even Gemini is kind of like the mundane knowledge, the trivia, the gossip, the news, the Sag is lofty. It's about the bigger picture. And because Taurus is an earth sign, Taurus may always bring it back down to the 3D reality of, day to day. Okay, that's great, but how is that going to help me in my day to day life? And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, having both of these in my particular chart myself, I feel the same way about spirituality. But I do tend to go back and forth between the abstract and the mundane. And so but that's within myself. But when you have it with two different people, there can be this kind of a chasm or this gap between how one person perceives reality and the other one does. And it's also depending on how evolved both people are, because in some cases it can be so glaringly different that there's just no bridging that gap, and that can lead to, it's not that it's going to be contentious, there's going to be like fighting over it, but there can be this lack of being on the same page, and that does affect life in serious ways, because people make decisions sometimes based upon their belief system. Hopefully they do. And people who are Taurus, they may be looking at it from the bottom line, like, how is this going to benefit me financially? Whereas a Sagittarian may say, but is this important for my soul's growth? Is this a good thing for my soul's growth? And so they may be torn about certain decisions that they make as a couple based on looking at it from a pragmatic versus a spiritual perspective. Another thing is that Sagittarian, that was another thing I wanted to say, is the sense of indulgence that I think that both of these signs can engage in. That means, going to a restaurant and just really enjoying the food deeply, like inhaling the food. You love it so much. And that sense of unapologetically, embracing pleasure can be something that is a breath of fresh air if I was going to say Capricorn, if the Taurus person is like familiar with being with someone like a Capricorn who might be like self-denying, that can be nice to actually be with somebody that they can indulge without having to explain themselves or apologize for themselves. But it can be too much of a good thing. Nine of Cups. It can be a situation of the two parties kind of reinforcing each other's worst habit, which might be the inability to say no to food and maybe drink or whatever it is that they are tempted to deal with, to overindulge in. And so sometimes when you're in a relationship, the other person, they have certain areas where they are stronger and they can help, their partner not fall into those temptations. But if you both have the same flaws or what we'd call vices, then it makes it that much more difficult to get out of that situation because you just kind of egg each other on, even if it's unintentionally. And I think also Sag, being a fire sign, is very like fired up in life and tends to get very enthusiastic about things. Earth signs like Taurus tend to be very pragmatic, and they sometimes can poke holes in Sag's dreams. One way to put out a fire is to throw earth on it, right? So that can happen. And, it's funny because I grew up with a sibling who is a Taurus, and I always was the one with these crazy ideas, and that sibling was very, sure and steady, but it seemed like there was this practical mindset, but sometimes you want, dreaming is a very good thing. Obviously, you have to think beyond your current circumstance to imagine something greater than what you're experiencing at this moment. So you have to have that breadth of vision. And I think that Taurus can be kind of narrow-minded in that sense of just seeing whatever is the five senses are quote-unquote proving to them. And when you're looking for proof of things through the five senses, that can limit what you can imagine for yourself, which is coming from that immaterial place, the upper chakras where you have these thoughts and inspirations. So the Sagittarian person may feel like the Taurus person is keeping them down in that sense by poo-pooing their dreams, and the Taurus person may think that the Sagittarian is living in fantasy land, and that they're wildly impractical, and that can be very annoying for both parties. But like I said, it all depends on the individual, or at least I'm saying that now. And so it's up to you, if you're in this type of relationship, to decide whether or not the pros outweigh the cons. And they very well might. Okay, well, thank you for listening. If you would like a private reading, I do have compatibility readings. I call them love readings or relationship readings, but they're mainly looking at two charts. Or if you're single, looking at your chart. I have natal chart interpretations themselves and other types of readings, transit readings. You can click on the link below for more information. Take care. Bye.